Hello, this is Dr. Hassan Abdullah with the course Deep Reinforcement Learning. And the topic which we are covering is the sixth topic in the list of topics. That topic is the optimization techniques. And this is the subtopic, lecture 6D, which has more or slightly more difficult concepts or more challenging concepts. And this video and is developed using the supplemental website www.easymcq.com/GoGet, which is a personalized learning management system. So we have adopted the approach of content delivery, and this is not like the conventional approach, which has been being used using slides, and it has numerous advantages, and some of those advantages are written in front of you in the slide. So please take a look at it, and you will know the benefits. And this learning management system, which I mentioned, the address is given in the green color URL, and the usage of this personalized learning management system is explained using 6 videos, and the location of those videos is given in blue color. So what are those advantages? It provides very powerful full text and basic text search, which are not there in leading LMS, and it also provides the end user with having any vision limitations to customize the interface. And furthermore, all the content is kind of available in a hierarchy in a drop down menus, which supports working and learning on a smart device with limited screen. Then it tracks your progress, so you know what you have done, what you need to do. And then of course there are online exams with online grading and averaging the results and letting you know what is your level of understanding. So we have used the approach of question and answer, which is more engaging, which is more proactive, and which promotes thinking. And of course, we have also used the traditional learning approach, where details are provided. So this is a blended learning mechanism, which is the best of both worlds. And these are the topics which are covered. And we are at topic number 6, which is the optimization techniques. And the details of this topic is in front of you. So we have these blocks of color which identify which concepts Q&A are covered in which topic. Say for example, lecture 6A shown in yellow covers the first 3 Q&A or the concept. Similarly, in green color is the next 3 Q&A, which is 6B and so on. So without further ado, we move on to the actual course and start from there. So we start with the section 6D of the optimization techniques. So we are looking at the techniques so that we can improve the performance and the time and other parameters for reinforcement learning and deep learning. So the question is why it is a good practice to decrease the learning rate during first T iteration and then leave it unchanged. So it is like, say for example, you can kind of heat something, and then the desired temperature is reached, and you leave it that way. Or maybe it's the air conditioning also, so you set the cooling, and after that temperature is reached, then the cooling stays steady. So this is the kind of analogy we are looking at, right? So what we are looking at, we want to decrease the learning rate during the first T iterations and then leave it unchanged, right? And of course, it's a common strategy in deep learning training, and what is called as a learning rate warm up. And of course, it has certain benefits. That's why it's being used. And these benefits, as a matter of fact, contribute to the stability and the efficiency of the training process. Okay. So if you look at this diagram in detail, so the learning rate basically is increasing, and then it stays steady. Okay, and then it decays. All right, then it decays. So this is, and of course it has its own, and epochs is the iterations. So what do we get out of it? Uh, Early stage it's stable, because if the learning rate is high, we know it results in oscillations and missing of even the local minima. And it has other advantages also. So what we are interested in, for example, starting with the first aspect is stabilizing early training. So in early training model, weights are randomly initialized and unstable. But when there is a gradual increase in the learning rate, that prevents abrupt updates, because those abrupt updates can destabilize the learning. So when there's a gradual increase that allows the model to explore the lost surface, say for example, more gently before committing to the large steps. Okay. Then of course is preventing divergence. So if there is high initial learning rates, that can cause the gradients to explode. All right. And that we've already discussed, that leads to divergence or poor convergence. But if we start with a lower rate, that reduces the risk of large, say like erratic or uncontrolled updates. Because what they do, that those erratic updates can push the model far from the optimal regions, right? Where in the parameter space. All right. So I can give you an analogy of frying an egg also. So if you fry an egg and the heat is very large, it's very high, it's most likely it is going to burn the egg. But if you gradually increase the heat, or if the heat is so, then there's more likelihood of the egg getting fried without getting burned. So smoother transition to full learning rate. Now what happens is that when there is a warm up phase, it creates a gradual and controlled shift to the full learning rate instead of jumping to it. So it obviously this avoids sudden jumps, because those jumps can or might disrupt the optimization process. So this gradual rate increase, it helps the model adapt smoothly, gently, and transition is more effective into stable and then finally large step training. So this is more or less like the concept of simulated annealing also. So if the metal is gradually heated, then you are more able. So it is more malleable, and it is easier to shape it. Effective use of the learning rate. Now, when you gradually increase to a fixed learning rate, and then of course that gets stay steady, that maximizes the its utility. How? By ensuring that this learning rate is applied only when the model is ready. That high learning rate is only applied when the model is ready. So what happens, that this basically balances the initial caution, okay, with of course later efficiency. So using the learning rate when where it can be the most beneficial. That's the objective. Improve generalization. So what the learning rate warm up helps avoid is overfitting. Overfitting early noise in the data by reducing aggressive weight changes. So gradually the weights are changed. I'm not saying increased or decreased, but they are uh, changed, okay, or reduced more appropriately, not aggressively. So as a consequence, the feature learning is more stable, and that leads to a flatter minimum. That is the okay flatter minima which we are looking for. So that, and what is the benefit? It is associated with better generalization and performance. And finally, practical example is the Adam optimizer. So even with adaptive optimizers, let me show you that diagram so that it kind of makes sense. Okay, all right. So even with adaptive optimizers like Adam, okay, warm up to the steady state improves the stability, and that is especially true with large models or if you work with small batches. Now, many training schedules for models like BERT and GPT include learning rate warm up. So this is something practical, and it avoids early instability, and it ensures reliable convergence. Okay, so you can basically look at these explanations, but more details are given here. Okay, and you, if you're interested, these are the references. So we move on to the next Q&A. So now we are looking at the impact of momentum. So in which types of loss surfaces and regions? We have looked at simple convex and then complicated non-convex law surfaces also. Momentum will accelerate learning. So what is momentum? Okay, we have covered momentum, but you can search for momentum. You go to search and here you type momentum, okay, and then click on the green button, right? So there are 17 Q&A about momentum. So momentum is highlighted also, right? And momentum is here. So you can read and get to know what is the meaning of momentum. Okay. So coming back to the Q&A, uh, momentum will or can accelerate learning, right? So when navigating flat or gently sloped regions, right? So so you can see that if it was a stochastic gradient descent, there are a lot of oscillations here, right? And of course that takes more processing power also. But use of momentum, as you can see that the direction is the same, right? But it is more smoother, it is more direct, it takes less time, it takes less resources. So it escapes the local minima. It gets out of it, reducing the oscillations in ravines. So these are the oscillations. You see there are no oscillations with momentum. Faster convergence in general. So with this as with oscillation, of course that will take extra time. So over here the convergence is fast. Practical example. So in detail, what we will be covering is here in front of you. So what momentum does is momentum accelerates the learning in lost surfaces. Okay, that have long and narrow valleys. So long and narrow valleys, right? Where gradients oscillate in steep directions. So the gradient is oscillating here and change slowly in flat ones, right? So this also affects and is also effective in flat or gently sloped regions where the gradients are small also, right? So what is the outcome? It helps the optimizer maintain progress instead of stalling, right? That's the biggest advantage. And furthermore, uh, the regions in which the gradients are consistently aligned across steps, gradient is consistently aligned across steps, momentum compounds updates and increases the convergence rate. It is obvious from these two diagrams. So this allows momentum to smooth learning, right? And overcome inefficiencies in standard gradient descent. Inefficiencies, oscillation of the standard gradient descent. So we can see that both examples. All right. So now we go into those details. So navigating flat or gently sloped region. Okay. Now in flat or low gradient areas of the loss surface, standard gradient descent slows down. Why? Because of that special type of the loss surface. Because it's flat and the gradient is close to zero. So, but momentum helps maintain velocity. How? By accumulating the past gradients. That's what momentum is. And that enables the optimizer to continue to progress through those regions instead of stalling due to weak updates. All right. Escaping the local minima. Now, momentum can also help the optimizers escape shallow local minima. Shallow means it's not very deep. By using the accumulated prior gradient history to carry the parameters forward. So basically using the past to predict what uh, could be in to be seen. So this added inertia prevents the model from getting stuck in small suboptimal dips. So depending upon what has been seen prior, so it allows to take those decisions, which takes the optimizer out of the local minima or local or suboptimal dips. And of course, this is better because that overcomes the limitations of the standard method. Okay, using oscillations in rewinds. As I've shown you in the diagram, in narrow valleys where the gradients fluctuate sharply across the dimensions, I've shown you. So momentum smooths the path by dampening the oscillations based upon the average values. So it kind of removes the erratic side to side movement and guides the optimizer along the long axis of the rewind. So what is the result? The result is more stable and directed learning. And of course, that results in faster convergence in general. So when the gradients are consistent across iteration, then the momentum amplifies useful direction and reduces the redundant updates which are due to the oscillations. Now this compounding effect increases the learning speed because you can see there it is just going kind of straight and helps the model reach good solutions faster, right? Because there are less iterations and this is faster than the basic gradient descent. And this is especially true for smooth or well aligned regions of the loss surface. All right. Now, there can be high curvature also because we cannot say that there are no high curvature. There could be high curvature also. So the area of high curvature where the gradients vary rapidly, again, momentum mitigates the instability by smoothing out the sharp changes because you're taking the averages. So as a consequence, the optimizer adjusts the direction not erratically but gradually. So that reduces the risk of jumps, erratic or random jumps. And of course, that improves the convergence behavior in steep or uneven regions. Okay. Practical example, there can be many as a matter of fact. Uh, Practical example. This diagram is one. So it is commonly used in stochastic gradient descent, and usually the momentum coefficient is set between zero point 0.8 and 0.99. And of course, it is used widely in deep learning for faster convergence. So further details about momentum over here is beyond the scope of this lecture. So I will stop here. Okay, and if you should be reading all this material, all right, and you should be looking at the references also. Okay. So now we look at the continuation methods. What are those methods and what is their significance? So these are the bullets of the content which we'll be discussing. And here we have the diagram. And these bullets are further divided into sub-bullets like this. So what are continuation methods? So continuation methods, which we are discussing here, so they help reinforcement learning agents train more effectively. How? By starting with easier tasks or loss functions and gradually increasing the difficulty. It's like, for example, if you are weight training, you start with not the heavier weights but the lighter weights, build the muscles, and then, of course, move toward heavier weights. This is the analogy. So these techniques, continuation methods, include curriculum learning, loss smoothing, and stage task difficulty. These are in the subsequent Q&A, but I have not covered them in this lecture. So these techniques enable faster convergence, better generalization. I believe everybody knows what generalization is. Of course, you can search it at easymcq.com/GoGet. And greater stability means that there are fewer oscillations during the training because these oscillations result in more time, resources, and energy. So rather than facing a complex optimization problem from the start, the agent learns progressively, gradually, step by step. So building the skills and the representations incrementally, not in big jumps. So what does this approach mirrors is the human learning paradigm. Okay, and of course, in this way, it addresses many challenges of deep reinforcement learning. Okay, such as sparse rewards, local minima, unstable gradients. Some we have covered, some not part of this course. So when they used properly, continuation methods transform difficult problems into manageable learning steps. And of course, that significantly enhances the performance. So let's look at gradual difficulty increase. So this simplifies early training by easing the agent into tasks. The environment starts easy and becomes harder as performance improves. Remember the example of increasing the weight for the training which I mentioned. Okay. Curriculum learning. So arranges the tasks in a logical sequence. Like we have simpler courses, 100 level courses, 200 level courses, 300 level courses, and so on. So that allows the model to learn complex behavior step by step. And what it does is that increases the reliability and the performance. So that's the advantage, that is the benefit. Then smoother loss surface. Uh, Now if simplified or smoothed loss functions are used early on, this stabilizes the gradients and avoids poor learning dynamics in early training. So let's take a look at this concept. So this is what we have. We have smooth loss functions, right? So what is happening is as we progress, right, we have more complex. This is completely convex with a single minima, which is the local minima, is the global minima. That is not the case, and this is even more difficult because of this depth of this valley. Very difficult to get out of this valley, and of course there are multiple minimas also, right? So this is what we are looking at. So smoother loss surface, starting with the smooth and then increasing the complexity. All right. Then what we have? Okay. Oh, let me clean this. Okay. Then is what is meant by improved convergence? Improved convergence that enhances the learning efficiency. How? By guiding the model away from poor minimum and ensuring the steady progress over time, gradual, so to say, learning. And finally is the broader generalization. I believe everybody knows what is meant by generalization. So exposure to varied tasks or varied difficulty improves the robustness. All right. So that makes the model more adaptable to unseen or complex situations, just like the human behavior. So we are over here, we are trying to mimic the human behavior and the energies I have given. So further details are here, okay, and the references are here. So that's all we have for the topic 6D.